What about it?
Oh, you're there. Hi.
Good morning.
I didn't see you there.
Well, I knew he was there. We were pushing it, so I wanted to look good.
Oh,
There we go.
I had no
Down
idea.
there.
you still in St. Louis, my friend?
No, I'm in Salt Lake.
Oh, Utah. Okay.
Wow.
Fortunately, my wife came home yesterday, so we're good.
Oh,
Great.
fantastic. Good to hear.
It's 9 a.m.
I know. I'm looking for somebody, though. Where are they? They'll come, I suppose. I hope they come. Anyway, good morning, all. Let's go around the horn and see who you are. Who are you, Darren?
I'm Darren, KCØZIE, treasurer and webmaster.
Come on.
KE0LDK, the other Mike from Windsor.
Roger, KG0I, Greeley.
Mark
David.
N7CTM from Firestone.
David, K6OG from Estes Park.
W8LYJ, Love Array, Loveland.
Bill, K0UT, Fort Collins.
Jim, K6ETE, one of the directors at large, Loveland.
Greg, the other member at large, Fort Collins, N0EMP.
N0KBX, Tom in Wellington.
K8GEE, Jerry in Fort Collins.
N0FON, Damon in Holyoke.
W0DAS, Dave in Fort Collins.
Jerry, NW0W, the other Jerry in Fort Collins.
KD0WDX, Tony, secretary.
K0GCB, Glenn in Fort Collins.
November 6th, Sierra Victor Bravo, Doug in Fort Collins.
The other Doug, K2AD, Firestone.
Mark, AE0DJ in Fort Collins.
November 0, Romeo, Quebec Victor, Ted in Loveland.
AF0AZA, Ron in Fort Collins.
And immediately have
John in KZOY, Loveland.
Dave, WA1JHK in Firestone.
That may be everybody. I thank you very much. KZOTYU, Joe here in Loveland. And I got some job in this club. I guess don't know what it is, but no one else does either, so that's okay. And I thank you very much for sending out the newsletter. Great job. If you did not get it, it is posted on the website. Just open it up and go under newsletters, and it's right there. So I posted it yesterday or the day before. Any questions or comments about anything that was in the newsletter?
I have been getting on my.
Say again, Ann. We lost Ann. Darren, is she still in here someplace?
I'm looking for.
I'm not seeing her anyplace.
I'm not seeing her.
I'm not either. That's why I was wondering if you as a host could see her better. Huh. Well, anyway, are there any comments or questions about anything that's in the newsletter? Did everybody get it? Jerry's saying yes. That means everybody.
Yes, and Ann is doing a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, the guy that did it before wasn't very good, I'll have to admit. So I'm sure glad when she took it over. I am the world's worst when it comes to newsletters. Absolutely the world's worst. And she took it on and really cleaned it up a lot from what I was doing. Let's move on down. Jim and I don't know if James is here yet, and Darren. we want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do in this position next month, our Tech Fest. And so I'll let you two guys take it away and tell us all about the Tech Fest. Today,
Who?
you.
Oh. Well, you said 3 different names and then you guys and.
True. Yeah, I show them the, we've got a flyer out.
Okay. Everyone should see the flyer for now. Next month, in place of the membership meeting, we'll have our Tech Fest that will be run almost exactly the same as the meetings are right now on Zoom. It's going to be set up as a Zoom webinar, I believe. Is that correct, Darren?
That is correct.
Okay, you'll be able to, it'll be also be streamed live on YouTube. So you'll be able to, you have to register for the Zoom meeting. You will not have to register to view it on Zoom. We are limiting how many people?
400, I believe.
400 can attend the Zoom webinar, but unlimited amount can view it live on YouTube anytime during the day. It's going to run from 8 a.m. until approximately 5 p.m. Might run over a little bit with a lot of the very great speakers that Joe and James and a few other people have been able to get. You can see on the one flyer, this is a flyer we're going to put on. We'll put on social media on that. And
hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, there's one major glaring typo on there I can see right away. It's word silver, S-I-L-V-E-R, not silver.
Ah, okay. I will correct
Spinelli
that.
has 2 L's in it.
And it has 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spinelli, not words. Gene Spinelli, 2 L's in Spinelli.
Oh, it's Spinelli.
Okay. I think I have it correct on the other flyer. This is the other. Yeah, it's correct on this one. So we'll stay on this one. We'll fix the other one before it gets published anywhere. You see we have Bob Heil, Ward Silver, Rob Steenberg, Gene Spinelli, Amanda and Val, and some other people from
Ham Nation
and ARL, and all women in ham radio is going to be their topic. And then Karen Thompson from RT Systems is going to be going over a lot of the features and functions of their programming software. So each session will also include a Q&A after the presentation. So if you have any questions about anything, it'd be a very good time to ask. Have some one-on-one questions and live interaction with, especially with Karen with RT Systems. If you have any questions or hiccups with their software, it'd be a great time to get some live input from them.
Are you going to have a specific schedule for the 8 to 5 window?
Yes, there will be a schedule. Each speaker will be approximately 45 minutes with 15-20 minutes Q&A, depending on how long their presentation goes. Some of them might end up a little bit longer on the Q&A part. Some might have a little bit less time, but each one will have a specific time slot. We're just working on finishing that up. And once that's finalized, that will be published also. Just didn't want to publish any time slots until we have everything nailed down.
That's an incredible lineup. I think if people should really go to this.
And it's free.
Wow.
Oh, we'll have the tip jar out.
Okay. But I will get that other one fixed.
Not a problem, Jim. I appreciate you doing this. I want to publicly thank my team. These guys have bent over backwards to get this thing done. I appreciate all the things that they've done. It basically is, hey, can you do this? No problem. When would you like it? I mean, it's just super. These guys have worked really, really hard on this thing, and I think it's going to be one of the best ones we've got.
Yeah.
There's some very interesting people in there.
And
Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
There are potentially a couple other big name people that aren't confirmed yet, but once they are, those will be added onto the list also. Any other questions?
James, did you have any comments about some of the people that you've talked to?
I don't think so. It was pretty. I think most of that's pretty self-explanatory. Amanda's got probably 4 or 5 prominent females in ham radio that'll be presenting in that presentation. So that should be kind of a different twist on what we're used to seeing for presentations. I think it's a neat balance there, and should be a really great event.
So 4 or 5 women, we might want to block out an hour and a half to 2 hours for them.
No.
Oh boy, are you in trouble? I wouldn't have guts enough to say that.
Are they only going to talk about ham radio?
Yeah, these are if you don't know Amanda and Val and some of these others, they're very passionate about radio, very passionate. Some of the best. They're probably some of the best representatives of our hobby you could ask for. So it should be pretty good.
Isn't Amanda assistant director to ARRL for the state, or am I thinking wrong?
I honestly don't know, Joe. She has a lot of titles.
Yeah.
Amanda does a lot for this hobby and for our clubs in this state. And she does actually she carries several different board and memberships and things like that. I'm not sure which ones are actually official and not.
Yeah, I know she runs their Facebook stuff for the Colorado region of ARRL.
Yeah, she's very good with social media stuff and advertising and that kind of thing as well.
Pretty good lineup. I appreciate everybody that helped out on this thing. And more to come. And we will, Dave, for you, we've got about 70% of the people actually, we've got them booked. We just trying to find time slots for them. So I appreciate your thing, but we've really got kind of a tentative list we're working at, but we've got a few people that haven't confirmed their time. So the only one I know for sure is Karen, because I talked to her yesterday. She'll be there at 4 o'clock. That much I know. And this is all mountain time.
I have there's a lot of the schedule already solidified, Joe. It's all in that spreadsheet, but until we get the final ones all booked in, we should probably just hold off on announcing the schedule so that everybody, if anybody needs to change on our waiting to be confirmed, we have that solid, but we're very close to having the full schedule out.
Yeah, I was under, well, my idea was whenever we open up the registration to announce the schedule, so when people register, they know roughly when they're going to be needed or committed.
Do you have any idea when the registration will be available for us?
I would expect that within the week.
How many people can possibly be on this conference?
We're set up right now with a WebEx license for 400 in the group, and plan for any overflow to go to YouTube. If we really do have that much interest, we could pay the extra money and bump up to the next license level.
But if people register when you open that up, then you'll know kind of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's kind of, Dave, why we wanted to pre-register everybody. I know it's kind of a pain, but it just works out better. So at least we know what kind of license we're going to need.
Yeah, and
No, I think it's great. It's less than a month from now, so registration opens sooner than later. It'd be good for everybody.
yeah, and I know with if people do view on YouTube Live, we will have the live chat window that I'll be monitoring, and then Darren will be running the Zoom portion of it and monitoring that chat. So if people are on YouTube and want to ask a question, they can ask it live on YouTube, which will be relayed to the speakers at the time.
In fact, there's probably going to be a couple of us that's going to be monitoring that chat, because
Yeah,
I've had that question asked by our speakers. Hey, will somebody be monitoring that? And I said, yeah, there'll be a couple, three of us doing that, because we realize that there's certain sections and things like that that you're going to ask questions about.
And I'm assuming it'll be recorded and available afterwards.
Yeah.
Not all of it. There are some restrictions some of our presenters have on recording because of financial sponsorships that they have. We can probably record most of it, but there's at least one presentation that we can't. So I'll have to work with Jim and Darren on that one. But yeah, this is probably most of it will be recorded, but there's and I'll just tell you right now, it's the Gene's DXpedition one, because these clubs pay lots and lots and lots of money for these DXpeditions. One of the things their group does is present the DXpedition presentation to all of those donors, and he doesn't want them to see it first via a recording he did for us before he has an opportunity to give it to those clubs. So he has asked us not to record that one. We're waiting on okays from some of the others on recording, but we hope to record most of it.
James, would it be acceptable to work out a deal where we could record it and then post it later after the other obligations?
Very likely. I will double check. He's pretty flexible. He's just very he's not going to upset donors.
Exactly.
And so
we don't want to make anybody mad.
Yep, I'll check.
And I don't think we're going to post all 8 hours together. Okay.
What, you don't want a 10?
No, I don't think. I mean, that's like asking somebody.
No, as far as the YouTube Live will be, I'll stop the stream and then restart it in between presentations, just so we can label each one, title each one differently in regards to what their presentation is. It'll have the same title, the NCARC Tech Fest, and then the subtitle of what the presentation is. So,
Any other comments or questions? Appreciate your input on this thing. And like I said, my group is the best. The group is just super. Okay. If you didn't know this, the last couple of weeks, we did a DMR for challenged or dummies, if you will. It is actually posted. The individual programs are actually posted on the website under resources. It was interesting. We had about 20, 25 people that actually signed up for the thing and actually showed up. And it was more of a Q&A. We had a little brief 15 to 20 minute presentation, I guess you could say. And then we went into questions and answers. And I was really surprised that the people that came really did like it. Very good presentation. If you're interested, please check it out on the website. I realize that everybody isn't into DMR and various things like that, and that's okay. But if you were, I think it cleared up a few things. Any comments about that? Mike, you were there. What'd you think? The other Mike from Windsor.
It was good. I actually got to work with Jim and another fellow who was brand new, and we got him going. So he appreciated the information, and the nice part about the sessions is you can go back and look at them.
I kind of set up one guy. He called me about a week before and wanted to know about ham radio. Didn't know much about it. Was thinking about getting a family service radio. And I said, well, you ought to join us for the DMR thing. And he wrote me back. He said, I have no idea what you guys were talking about. So I kind of screwed up on that. But He did. We did call. He called Thursday and we talked, and and he's going to start studying, and then we're going to do a class with him. Go ahead.
Hey, Darren, I'm looking now and I don't see session 3 linked up quite yet. I mean, is it just me?
Oh, you're right. I haven't put that one up there yet.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
It's almost all there.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for the reminder. I will get that done today.
Before we go into our presentation, last week we had a board meeting and some things came up that I kind of want to talk to you about. Darren, I'm going to push this over to you about the Colorado Give Day.
Let's see. There's not a lot to say there, except that I think a lot of people know what Colorado Gives Day is. In a nutshell, it's basically one day where the entire state of Colorado advertises to its citizens to contribute to nonprofits and provides a clearinghouse, one location where they can go through and find all of the nonprofits they might care about, or a central location to make their donations. That was about a week or so back in early December. So I have looked into it. It was too late to get into it this year, but I will sign the club up for next year and hope to get an alternate funding source for the club.
Okay. Also, we are thinking we're going to, and I'm going to turn this over to James for the Rocky Mountain Ham Con donation.
Not sure what you're looking for here, Joe.
To ask the club, or to talk about, we should donate to the Rocky Mountain Ham.
Oh yeah, so the divisional convention is held I think it's every 5 years, 4 or 5 years. As you knew, that the 2019 was pushed into 2020 because of COVID. And at this point, it is now it's canceled. We were unable to find a location with all of the 2019 folks. That they've all rebooked into 2020, and it was just a complete uphill battle. So NCARC did not donate money to the seed this year for that. We're not exactly sure why, but come around when 2025 convention happens, we'd like to see NCARC be part of the seed club, seed money, clubs that provide the seed money. I want to say, I think it's $200 is typically for a club our size, if I'm remembering the numbers right. So it's not a terribly large donation, but we would like to do that here in a couple of years when it comes around again. Make sure Doug, did I get those numbers right?
I think you did. Yeah, it's usually $200. And just to be clear, Joe's calling it the Rocky Mountain Ham. This is the ARRL Rocky Mountain Division Convention.
A good clarification.
It is not a Rocky Mountain Ham event.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's the ARRL Rocky Mountain Division, led by Jeff Ryan, with Dan Grady as our vice director.
Thank you. That was an important clarification. Yeah, so we got a couple of years, but when that comes around, again, it's in time to do that. It would be a very good thing for us to support and be a part of, to put on a good convention. The last time it happened close by to us, I'm sure many of you went. It was in Estes Park a couple of years ago. And some of you may have went to it when it was in Keystone. It's been in the neighborhood several times. So we'll reach out again when it gets closer to time there. But
okay, thanks so much for that. I did not know that. Thank you very much. Clarification. Jim, you want to talk about I think it's January 25th. I haven't got my calendar, about the TechNet one night moving to DMR. And Doug, I don't know if we got the approval for that yet.
I don't know. Did you send an email?
We talked to you and you said you'd take it to the board.
Oh, I would.
Joe, I will make it official and send the board an email.
Okay,
I don't think it's
tentatively,
going to be a problem, but I thought you were going to send an email to remind me to do it because I forgot about it.
oh,
I will send it. I will take care of that and send it to the board to get approval.
James, why don't you send it through as we're encouraging this use and see if anybody objects, because
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
That was my plan.
Perfect.
Jim Dixon, you want to kind of explain what we're tentatively talking about?
Yeah, so tentatively, with the approval of Rocky Mountain Ham, we're going to do the TechNet on DMR on the Northern Region Talk Group 721 on the last Monday of the month. So it'll be January 25th, I believe is the last Monday of January. We'll be on DMR. It'll open it up to a lot of people and get more people a little bit more familiar with DMR network. You can get into the DMR if you can't access any of the Northern repeaters, you can get in through Brandmeister through one of the Brandmeister link, which is 310813 for the Northern group. If you have any questions or any
Owl?
no
way, I missed it. Did you see the red-tailed hawk in the wood over that way?
No, we didn't see that, Ann.
You saw?
And
if you
I got her
have
muted. It's okay.
Programming in the repeater, you can get a hold of a few of us, and we'd be more than happy to help you with it. I know I'm familiar with most radios. Joe can point you to someone that can help you if you call him. James or Doug or Mike, the other Mike from Windsor. There's quite a few of us that are familiar with it that can walk you through the steps.
And a few of us also have a cache of DMR radios. If you care to learn a little bit about them and use them for a while, I'd be willing to loan it for certain people. Mike's got mine. We tried to hook up yesterday and that didn't work. But anyway, yeah, it's just another aspect. And I understand that a lot of people don't like the DMR because it is slightly, it's quite a bit different. But it's there for, it's a hobby, so it's there to try. Next thing I want to move to is field day proposals. I see Greg in there someplace. Would you like to take this and explain what we've done?
Hey, Joe, N0EMP, Greg, field day committee. This past June, we had the ranch, and that would have been $600. They gave us a 50% discount, knocked it down to $300. This year, next year, for 2021, we would not be getting a discount at the ranch. It would be full price. Also, some of our members that participate in field day wanted to set up Friday night instead of Saturday, and they wanted to do a cookout Friday evening, like a barbecue or something. Two things with the ranch. First of all, that'd be another day. That'd be another $300. Secondly, they won't allow us to have outside food. They have a vendor for food services that they're contracted with, and they won't allow us to do the cookout we want. Ann Donahue has volunteered. She's got a couple acres just outside of town. If you go up I-25 to Highway 14, you go just a couple of miles, mile or two east and north, and she's got some pasture land there. And I went out and took a look at it. It looks completely adequate for our needs. I listened on a couple AM blank channels on broadcast AM at the top and bottom of the band. Didn't hear any noise. except for a somewhere off in the distance there was an electric fence that was sparking, and she tells me that that's not even on during the summer. But if it is, we can find it and repair it and cure that issue. And it was pretty minor anyway. And the price is right. So we're looking at doing it there. She is still looking at a couple possibilities. She has a neighbor with 35 acres of open unused pasture land across the street. She's going to talk to him, and that could be even better. And we have a backup emergency location. I have a neighbor 2 doors down from me that owns she lives across the street from me, but two doors down, she owns a vacant house. It's been empty for years. That's on over 3 acres. And she's already authorized us to keep that as an emergency fail-safe last-minute backup if the asteroid hits up there in Ann's neck of the woods. We can relocate down here. So that's the plan, and that will allow us to, number one, save a lot of money, and number two, have that Friday night cookout if we desire. And so that's where we're at with field day.
Yeah, Greg worked really hard on this. When we got this $1,800 price tag, it pretty much knocked us back, because that's really crazy. Plus, we were trying to figure out how they could bring that catering truck out there and do all this, but that wasn't going to happen. So, any comments or questions about anything we talked about?
That field day sounds like a great location for an alternative, because, spending $600, and if you want to do it twice, it's $1,200 just for that. I don't know. This could be a little tighter year because not having our ham fest. It's where we can save it. Why not?
Well, the Friday night counted as one day, so it was $1,800.
Yeah, and I didn't want to cut into James's budget and have him put a hit out on me.
Right. Keep yourself safe.
I think it's a great idea. Much better location than the ranch.
Well, I kind of like the ranch because it was kind of close in to everything. Okay, this puts us a little bit farther out, but nothing like it was a few years ago when we were going out to none. So, any other comments? Okay, before we move on to our presentation, Darren, you have the floor.
Suppose I'll go off mute. One thing I did want to remind the club is that memberships expire at the end of the calendar year. So that's coming up here in about 2 weeks. So if you have not already done so, please get on the website and renew your memberships. You can do that through PayPal or print out the form and send it to our post office box.
You can do that right now since you're sitting in front of the computer.
Yes, you can. The other thing that I've done this year is put a bunch of work into managing all of this through the website. So if you log into the website, you can see when I get your payments, your history of payments, and what your membership and expiration dates are. So that is available over on the right-hand side under view user payments. So I encourage you to check that out, and then you'll never need to ask me what your expiration date is. But there is a chance that when I pull all the data in that there may be some minor issues. So if anything is off on that, please let me know as well. But I look forward to everyone renewing. That's about all I had, Joe.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to our presentation, and Darren, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Let me pull this up. See if I can. Hopefully everyone can see this. Got a thumbs up, thumbs down. Somebody seen something good. Okay, Mike's got it. Mike's got it. Everybody's got it. All right, I wanted to talk about a group that I used to work with and still do to a smaller degree, not nearly as heavily, but they do high altitude balloons. So there we go. So the group is Edge of Space Sciences. They were formed in 1990 and launch high altitude balloon experiments for universities, schools, high schools, middle schools. There's even been a couple of things that have been flown for elementary school students. And their charter there, as you can see, is to promote, promote science and education through high altitude balloons and amateur radio. So they conduct, this is just a few things that I ripped right off of their webpage. They conduct up to 15 balloon missions. I think they may have even exceeded that back in '99. Sending amateur radio equipped payloads deep into the stratosphere, typically over 95,000 feet. You're above 99% of the Earth's atmosphere at that point. Sky is black. It is amazing pictures that we've gotten back from there. Got a couple of those later on. And up on that balloon, we send radios, and we've gotten VHF, UHF signals as far as 400 miles away, and I think even further. From that, people have received it in Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, New Mexico. It's amazing how far a 100,000 foot antenna will get you. So a few interesting facts about it. Payloads for these balloons typically are about 20 or 25 pounds. Flights go 2 to 3 hours, and the downfield range on these varies a ton. We've had landings go as little as 3 miles. Now understand that's 3 miles is not just up and down, but it goes up and travels 100, 200 miles downrange and then comes back. And that's due to all of the different wind directions at different altitudes. Some of the balloons have gone in excess of 200 miles out into Nebraska and had to be recovered there. Typically, you're 50 to 100 miles away. At altitude up in the jet stream, and these things go through the jet stream and above it, but speeds have reached 160 miles an hour for a balloon, which is pretty amazing. Altitudes have actually had some go over 110,000, 115,000 feet. And the amazing thing, these guys are incredibly good at what they do. So their record on recovering payloads is 305 launches and none lost. Some of the early flights, they knew close to where it came down and spent days out there searching the prairies for it, and have managed to recover every single one of these things. So what have I done? I joined a chase back in late 2006 with a friend of mine from work, and that was what got me into ham radio and made me decide to get a license. So I went to the NCARC Ham Fest in 2007 and got licensed there. I am willing to bet that it was our friend Mike Hickerson, MBH, that did my test. So you can blame him for creating me. And then just a couple of months later was my first chase with a license. I've been heavily involved in the tracking and recovery teams and dabbled occasionally helping out at the launch site. Let's see. Often first one out to a landing to secure it. These things land out in the middle of nowhere. And if you've got wind or anything going on, we need to get somebody out there relatively quick to tie down the parachute. A lot of times I also lead students out to the location, and also gotten a lot of practice DFing. One of the items that's on that flight string you see in the picture is a beacon that you use to DF to find it if you don't have the last location. As these things come down from altitude, you'll get your last APRS packet a couple of 100 feet above the ground. Depending on winds and terrain, it can go quarter mile, half mile away from where that location is, and you've got to go find it. In the picture there, I think you guys will see it. Here's the balloon. Used to be filled with hydrogen or helium, and unbeknownst to a lot of people, there is a helium shortage in the world. So a few years ago, they switched over to using hydrogen because the price of helium absolutely skyrocketed and became unfeasible for these things. As everyone knows, hydrogen is a little bit flammable. So there's a lot of precautions they're taking on the launch team and filling that balloon. And everybody breathes a bit of a sigh of relief when it leaves the ground. Down from that, you'll see the parachute. This little nodule right here is a cutaway. So when the balloon will go up to altitude and burst, and that will release the balloon shards away, and the parachute brings the rest of the payloads down. And you'll see all of these items here are experiments and radios. So what makes this fun? Well, there's not a whole lot that isn't fun about running around a bunch of dirt roads out in eastern Colorado, trying to hang on to a laptop and a radio mic. Well, you've got some insane person driving 70 miles an hour. It turns out there's a lot of experience with communications, coordinating a group, working with APRS, and also DFing once you're on the ground. APRS is used extensively for this because each balloon has 1 to 2 APRS beacons on it, along with all of the trackers having APRS. Fun thing is that we digi our packets through the balloon, so we get really good coverage. And that way you've got one person, one lead tracker that's coordinating the group to keep a circle around where the predicted landing site is. I've also learned my way around a lot of Northeast Colorado that I might never have gone out to. You get unexpected challenges with every chase. There's always something different that goes on, something different that happens. Talking to the students is a fantastic experience. Learn so much about the different things they're learning, the different aspects of our atmosphere. And one of the best parts of the day is when everything's done, we all head out for lunch. And the tracker lunches are typically at any little diner or truck stop anywhere in Northeast Colorado. I've eaten at some places where it was a stretch for them to even fit the group in the building, but some of the best food you'll ever find too. So had a great time with that. Sometimes you got to get up a little early. Unfortunately, one of their launch sites is down in Deer Trail. So getting down to Deer Trail but for a sunrise launch is not the easiest thing to do, and I've had to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Most of the times it's not quite that bad. I appreciate the times when they launch out of Windsor. And by the way, if anybody's got a question or anything, stop me. So here's another picture of what the typical balloon looks like when we launch it. Launch at sunset, sun up. Sites include Windsor and Deer Trail, like I said. There's a handful of others that they've used. Flight string, you've got the balloon at the top with a release mechanism. You've got a parachute. Below that is a DF beacon and also a cutter. So they can get on the radio, send a couple of touch tones up to this thing, and activate a cutaway wire, which is basically a nichrome wire that melts through the flight string. That will allow the balloon to detach and the payloads to come down. Then down here, you'll see all of the different experiments that the students have put together. And then down at the very bottom is the primary APRS beacon. Balloons burst at a calculated altitude. The guys that do the calculations for this have been doing this, 300 flights, and have gotten incredibly good at calculating exactly how much gas to put into a balloon to get it to burst at a calculated altitude based on how much is in the balloon, what kind of balloon it is, and how much weight they're lifting. Excuse me. Tracking, on the other hand, we form a circle around the predicted landing site. It's updated on the fly. There is a crack team of predictors at the base station, ground station, that are doing predictions all through the flight. And we always considered it a badge of honor if we get to see the balloon come down and touch the ground. It means we did our job correctly. One of the big things we need to do every time is to get landowner permission before we get out there and get that thing, if it's not on a public section of land. A lot of people out there really appreciate their Second Amendment rights and have got a lot of guns. And, a lot of times they do that on ranches, and it's a very common thing. And you don't want to be out somewhere where you aren't supposed to be. We've always had very good interactions with the landowners. A lot of times this is the biggest excitement they'll have all year. And they come out, they lead us right out to it, talk to the students, and they have a grand time with it. So it's a really positive interaction. And then we drive or hike out to the landing site and recover all the pieces. Tracking vehicle, typically we're going to be in a 4-wheel drive. You'll have a driver and navigator. This particular chase in the picture there, I was driving. Most of the time I'm doing navigating and the computer work. APRS for beaconing, receiving, and diging. Typically we'll have a dual band radio. We're starting to use DMR for the tracking vehicles as well. There's been 2 generations of the software. The older version, you've got a laptop with custom USS software. It runs APRS and maps, and also does on the laptop predictions. And they're not as good as the predictions from the ground station, but they work. The new format, as you can see, is a custom built and configured industrial PC. Again, it's still custom software, and for this, you can interact with it through a browser. One of the reasons that they went to this setup is because when they were launching more and more balloons, we'd sometimes do 2 or 3 balloons at a launch, so we'd have them all up in the air at the same time, and had to start using multiple APRS frequencies, which meant tracking vehicles had to have multiple radios, which became a big problem. Well, with the The PCs, what they do is we're plugging in an SDR for receive, and that way it can listen across a broad spectrum of the frequencies and decode APRS from different frequencies and different balloons at the same time. So it's a really slick setup they've got going.
Hey, Darren, does the standard APRS frequency just get too busy, or when you get up that high and you're hearing so many stations?
Yeah, the thing is that they use a different frequency from the standard one. One, so that they avoid, hearing 300 mile radius of everyone sending. Excuse me. But also the fact that for these balloons, because they're coming down fairly quickly, you want to have beacons from them. So we set the balloons, I believe, to beacon every 30 seconds.
Gotcha. Yeah, you want that quick pace and not have to worry about a retry and miss that last, little bit. That makes sense.
Those last packets are the critical ones. There's been times where we've lost lock on that APRS, 1,000, 2,000 feet up. And then you're out hiking around for a fair bit with your beam looking for these things. So that's basically the group and the involvement. I'd be open to taking any questions, and the rest of this, I've got a handful of pictures from various chases that we've done.
Hey, Darren, I assume you plan the launch and the flight path to try to avoid all the controlled airspace, but is there any coordination that's required with air traffic control for these high altitude balloons?
Not exactly with air traffic control, but yes, it is planned very carefully. That is typically why they use the different launch locations as well. Deer Trail tends to be summertime and Windsor is winter to avoid the Denver International Airport's airspace.
They still get an FAA waiver for every one of them, though, Darren.
Yes, they do. They get an FAA waiver for every single one. And ground station is on the phone with the FAA during the entire flight. And we've actually had the FAA occasionally ask to cut the balloon and bring it down early. So that's one of the reasons why they have that cutter in there as well. But yes, very, very tight interaction with the FAA.
Yeah, I happen to be tracking one at one point. I was looking at APRS and noticed it on there, and I saw the altitude was 100,000 feet. And then all of a sudden, it must have been about the time it was cutting loose, because it started descending quite rapidly. And
yeah, when it cuts loose, because you're above 99% of the atmosphere, there isn't a whole lot for the parachute to grab onto.
No, that's
so
true.
Your descent rates at altitude are on the order of 3,000 to 5,000 feet a minute. So it comes plummeting down. And not until you hit about 50,000 feet or so, 50, 60,000 feet, does it really start slowing down much.
Right. And that's what I had noticed as well. And it came down not too far from DIA, actually.
Yeah, there's been times. Any other questions? All right, so over there on the left side is my first chase. The thing came down and managed to get itself wrapped over a wire. Took us a couple hours to get the thing down. And that picture was taken a few seconds before the yellow beacon there popped over the wire. And that coil that looks kind of soft is actually a 16-pound coil of metal tubing that came down on my head. So I have fond memories of that one. At least I do remember it. The next one over there, like I said, we chasing all year long. That time we had a couple of trackers get down a snow-covered road in the spring and got stuck up to the axle in no time. We had 3 vehicles out there. And again, it was a couple of hours before we could get somebody with a tractor to come out and pull them out. That truck that you see in the picture there, he was gunning it. That thing actually left the ground when he hit a bump getting back out onto the dirt road. But that's what some of the fun of this is that every chase has stories to tell, and that's some of the fun of the lunch is swapping all of this. Here's some shots where we flew a camera up to altitude. So the first one on the left is downtown Deer Trail, bustling metropolis there. I was a few hundred feet above ground. The second one there is from just before the balloon burst at 98,000 feet. So just stunning pictures up there. You can see the curvature of the earth, black sky above. And then the next picture was on the descent from about 48,000 feet, looking down on jet contrails. So really neat pictures there. The last one there was about 350 feet above the ground. The last picture it took before it landed. And by the way, if anybody is curious about these things, the EOSS website, EOSS.org, has recaps of every flight they've ever done, along with a number of picture galleries for every single one of them. That's where I pulled most of these pictures from.
Darren?
Yeah.
Is there there must be a specialized camera you're using for all this, isn't there?
Nope. This one was a basic camera recorded to an SD card.
Really?
Yep. Couple of things you've got to do, because up at altitude, obviously it gets well below zero. So what you've got to do is pack either heater packs or some kind of internal heating into most of the packages. So we had to warm the camera to keep it running. Beefed up the batteries because they get cold, and also it needs to shoot for 2 or 3 hours. But other than that, it's actually just a standard camera. We had to look around to get an off-the-shelf camera that you could just set for timing to just take a picture every minute or so. This was before the days of widespread GoPros. Now GoPros are a piece of cake.
Hey, Darren.
Yeah.
Are they actively looking for volunteers to help typically?
They'll always accept volunteers. Absolutely. The best thing to do is to get on their website. I can also get a contact there and ride along with somebody that's either go check out the launch. The launches are, open to the public. Nobody really goes by. And, if you're just standing around there, a lot of times they'll yell at you and put you to work. You can also do a ride along on one of the tracking recovery vehicles too.
Hey, Darren.
Yeah.
Just as a comment, you're talking about the getting landowner permission. I do remember one launch many, many years ago where the payload came down in a bison ranch, and the owner of the land was very accommodating, but he was not real happy.
Yeah, we've had a couple where they've been a little bit less hesitant, as Bill says, and we had one that came down in an active oil drilling area, and the guys threw it in the back of the pickup and drove it out to us. There's been some where the landowners only allowed one vehicle in, or will drive you out there, pick it up, and then drive you out. But it's always been relatively good working with the landowners.
Yeah, as you said, it's quite often the most exciting thing that's happened in a while for them.
Yep. So These are some pictures of what happens to the balloon at altitude. That top left one is one of the most spectacular pictures of when the balloon bursts. Basically, they just put enough gas in this thing that once the atmospheric pressure goes down, the balloon expands to the point that it bursts, just as if you put too much air into a balloon. So with these latex balloons, they explode into these shards. So you've got a nice picture there. Middle one on the bottom is another picture of a burst. And every once in a while, we get the shards either doesn't release quite well or gets tangled in some of the parachute lines and it comes down. So that's what some of these other pictures are. This one got tangled in the line. So we see the pieces. Question?
Darren, this is an early morning launch you mentioned. Is there a reason for that?
The winds tend to be lower, and so you've got a lot less drift or downrange going for the balloon.
I had a question about balloon diameter. I was wondering what the initial diameter is at launch point versus diameter at burst.
There were a couple of pictures there, and I think I've got a couple of more coming up here. Diameter of the balloon it's kind of oblong at burst, or at launch, so it's maybe 5 feet in diameter, and maybe 8 foot long at launch. But these things are probably 30 feet across when they burst. They become absolutely massive at altitude.
Thank you.
Another adventure with the shortest distance to launch ever. The guys that do the predictions are phenomenal, but this one they missed. This thing landed at the famous Dave's Barbecue in Fort Collins, right outside the front door. So we had about a 50-foot walk from the recovery to lunch. I think that's about the only one I think I ever saw come down in Fort Collins. Everything else is moved out east. Sometimes you lose things. We had an issue one time that we had launched a crossband repeater on the bottom of the flight string below the APRS beacon. And when we recovered this thing, the crossband repeater was gone. And so we went back, looked at the data. The ground crew did a great job here and found there was an interruption about 30 or 40,000 feet up. And they estimated that was when there was an antenna. It was a triangular antenna that they had the flight string going through. And they think in all of the flight, it just abraded away on that flight string and caused it to fail. So they did a prediction and they put us in Eaton, got into the area and actually started hearing the crossband repeater, DF'd on it, and found it in a bush in this guy's front yard in downtown Eaton. And the thing survived. The guy was actually not home, but having about 8 vehicles with antennas show up and a bunch of guys hop out and grab something out of his bushes made all of his neighbors really nervous about what happened. We had a good time with that one. Turns out one of his neighbors was a reporter for the newspaper and interviewed us as well. Out there, we run into wildlife. A lot of antelope out there running wild. We find skeletons out there, obviously. A lot of cows. This was one of our impediments to recovery one time. Recoveries. Not all of them are simple. You can see one time they're trying to collect the parachute, keep it from dragging the payloads across the dirt. And pretty stiff wind there at the recovery site. The bottom one there, buried up to the axle. But I'll tell you, that is not mud. We came down at a dairy farm in the middle of winter, so it was mostly frozen over. But one of our drivers found a soft spot and had to get pulled out. The bottom right picture there is typical recovery sort of operation, where we'll find this thing out in the middle of the prairie and hike out to it, usually mile hike out to it. The top right picture here, this was one of the recoveries that I did. One where I got out there to the recovery site. The students that are supposed to be maintaining their experiments typically will go out, secure the parachute, and wait for the students to come out and shut down all their experiments. Well, this one, the students were a long ways off, and we had a huge storm moving in. And you can see it there on the horizon. It was just absolutely gray and got darker and darker. So at one point we made the decision. We had lightning going on everywhere. I grabbed that thing and started hoofing it back across. This one was about 3/4 mile out, and it was an absolute downpour by the time I made it back to the vehicles. So that was always a fun one. And that top middle one there, that is my daughter out on a chase, helping us carry one of the payloads back. One of the more interesting flights we ever did was one for the 9 News Weather Day. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this thing. Usually happens early May down at Coors, or not Coors, there's a Coors, Rockies. So here are a few pictures getting set up. We were actually down on the field, running through the dugouts here, right behind home plate. They wouldn't let us touch the grass, but we could be out on the dirt. The entire 9 News weather team, along with Steve Spangler there, who is the one that leads everything. And here we are laying out the flight string along with some of the payloads and beacons. Once things got going, there you see the balloon and all of the flight string and payloads being walked out onto the field for launch. And the next picture there, that's actually one of my pictures taken from about 1,000 foot up as it's disappearing into the sky. Things are a little bit disturbing. When you launch them, they go up into the point where you can't see them anymore, and you hope that all of the electronics works and you get this thing back. But it has happened every time. Somebody had a question a minute ago about how big these things are at altitude. If you're if you've got good eyes, you can actually see these things at 90 to 100,000 feet. You have to look across the sky, and it is the smallest, faintest little white dot, but you can see them. They're that large when they're that high up. And then this was the recovery on the 9 News Day. So you'll see the parachute, which is typically the way we find these things visually out there on the prairie. Steve Spangler doing his video bit. And we launched a beaker to 100,000 feet. And this actually made the 9 News broadcast. So it was really kind of cool to see us on TV. And then the bottom one there that was a long day. And my daughter, along with everyone else in the back seat of the truck, was sound asleep on the drive back. And I think that is it. Yep. So, yeah, if you're interested, let me know. I can put you in touch with folks. Also, their website has got, I mean, just thousands and thousands of pictures from all the different chases.
Darren?
With maps of where the balloon has gone, the path for everything, along with predictions, airspace, everything is out there.
Darren?
Yes.
What are some of the scientific packages that the students put together?
You know, they have put together absolutely everything. We've had gliders that detach at 20,000 feet and guide themselves down to a location. We've had rovers that are supposed to deploy when they come down. We've had all sorts of experiments for air sampling, radiation, temperatures, air quality, air sampling at altitude. That big white coil that I showed you on my first flight is something they call a NOAA. NOAA does an air sampling where they'll open up one end of this huge long tube and suck air through it as it goes up and down. And then we close the valve after it lands, and then they can sample all of the different parts of the altitude. But you name it, and they have experimented with it. There was one group, I think it was elementary school students, that launched worms to 100,000 feet. They didn't do so well. So like I say, feel free to pop out here to their website under their flight archives. Like I say, this is all of the groups they've worked with and all of the flights they've ever had. So they've got an amazing amount of history built up on the site. Any other questions? All right, Joe, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. That was really interesting. I do appreciate you doing that. Did anybody have any questions for the board or anything that they'd like to discuss before we sign off, I guess? Okay, well, I do appreciate that. Like I said, we'll have more information about our Tech Fest coming out probably this coming week. And it looks like this is going to be super. So usually this time of the year, we tell you don't go to the Golden Corral next month, but I think that's pretty obvious. And remember, you will have to sign up for this. This is not something we're going to send out only because we need to we need to know how many people are going to be there in case we have to increase our licensing or whatever. So if there's no other comments, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate that. And you guys, everybody have a great Fourth of July, Christmas, and New Year's Eve.
Merry Christmas.
Exactly. What did you have in your coffee, Joe?
It's bourbon.
Jim's already put.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.